We're always told that having a high IQ is this incredible gift, right? A fast track to success. But what if it also feels like a huge weight? Today, we're going to get into this really wild paradox, why a super powerful mind can often be the source of its own exhaustion. If you've ever felt like your brain is just a runaway train that you can't stop, then this is for you.
And that right there is the hidden catch, isn't it? For so many highly intelligent people, the mind isn't just a tool you can put down. It's a machine that's built for non-stop processing, one that just refuses to power down, even when you are desperate for a break. Okay, let's get this straight. Right here, right now. If any of this feels familiar, you are not broken. Not at all. What you're feeling is the very real psychological tax that comes with having a high-functioning mind. So, let's dive in and explore the 7 specific reasons why this happens.
First up, we're going to pop the hood. Let's really look at the core mechanics, the biological, the cognitive reasons why a sharp mind can feel so incredibly draining.
So the very first reason is actually rooted in something called hyperbrain theory. The idea here is that folks with high intelligence often have a nervous system that's, well, hyperexcitable. Think of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles all the complex stuff, as being permanently overclocked, like a computer CPU that's always running in the red. It's just built to process and process and process.
And this overclocked state, it throws you into this powerful, endless loop of mental rumination. You're not just thinking things through once. Oh no. You're constantly replaying conversations, simulating a dozen future scenarios, questioning every past decision. Even when you're trying to rest, your brain is secretly running a full-on marathon.
All right, so now let's talk about the cognitive burden. What happens when you see and analyze the world in such exhausting detail? This is what we're going to call the curse of analysis.
Okay, so our second reason really boils down to this. Intelligence is all about connecting the dots. But what happens when you start seeing connections and patterns in everything? In the way a friend hesitates, in the stock market, and the tiny flaws of a system. It can become completely and totally overwhelming. This is the real cost of being able to see the code behind reality. You can't just enjoy an experience. You're almost compelled to analyze its underlying structure. The source material had this fantastic metaphor. It's like being forced to read the entire list of ingredients for every meal before you're allowed to take a bite. Sure, it's intellectually fascinating, but wow, is it emotionally draining.
And all of that deep analysis leads us right into our third reason, analysis paralysis. I mean, when your mind can instantly map out 10 different potential futures for any single choice, just taking action can feel, almost impossible. Yeah, for a multi-path mind, a simple decision is never really simple, is it? You see 10 steps ahead, but in 5 different directions at once. You get totally stuck calculating all the probabilities of failure. The exhaustion isn't from doing the thing, it's from the massive amount of energy you burn before you even make a choice. That internal energy drain is one thing, but it gets even more complicated when you try to interact with other people. And that brings us to reason number 4, the fatigue that comes from constantly having to bridge this social translation gap, that feeling that you have to kind of dumb down your thoughts just so people will get what you're saying. I mean, the contrast is just stark. On the outside, it's a simple conversation about the weather. But your internal monologue is going a mile a minute, filtering all this nuance and data and complex connections. This whole process, this cognitive distancing, can make social interactions feel less like a genuine connection and more like a really tiring performance. It's not about feeling smarter than anyone, it's about feeling perpetually out of sync.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little. We've talked about the thinking, the cognitive side. Now let's get into the emotional side of things. The heavy, sometimes existential pressures that come with being so acutely aware. Reason number 5 is what you could call the pedestal effect. If you spent your whole life hearing, "Oh, you have so much potential," that praise starts to build this crushing internal pressure to never ever fail. Sound familiar? This burden of potential means you're not just trying to complete tasks, you're driven to optimize them to absolute perfection. You become your own toughest, harshest critic. And because you can so clearly visualize that perfect outcome, anything less feels like a massive personal failure. The exhaustion comes from chasing this impossible standard that you've set for yourself. And that pressure can lead to a much deeper kind of anxiety. Which brings us to reason number 6. A high IQ often goes hand in hand with a preoccupation with life's biggest and often most unanswerable questions.
And you can really see the difference here, can't you?
While a lot of people are understandably focused on daily worries, a highly analytical mind can get completely stuck on these massive existential ones. Sometimes this is called existential depression. It's that heavy mental load you feel from carrying the weight of all the world's complexities on your shoulders.
Finally, that brings us to our seventh reason, the simple, sheer lack of internal quiet. It's the inability of a high-processing mind to ever truly be silent, to just be.
For a mind like this, silence is never really empty space, is it? It's instantly filled with internal debates, new theories, and an endless stream of what-ifs. The brain doesn't have an off switch. It only has a standby mode that's always buzzing with activity. And this constant internal noise is what makes true mental stillness, the kind you need for deep rest, feel almost impossible to find.
So, we've laid it all out. What on earth do we do with all this information? Well, in our final section, let's try to reframe this whole issue. This isn't about fixing some kind of flaw. It's about learning how to manage a really powerful and unique piece of machinery. I really want you to let this one sink in. Your exhaustion is a byproduct of your depth. You see, this isn't about overthinking as some kind of character flaw. It's about deep thinking as an inherent part of who you are. And just shifting your perspective on that is the very first step. So the goal isn't to be less smart, it's about learning how to manage the machine. That starts with giving yourself permission, real permission, to be unproductive, to just rest without feeling guilty that you're not optimizing every single moment. It also means seeking out connections with people who just get you, where you don't feel like you have to constantly translate your own thoughts. And maybe the most important thing of all, it's about remembering that you, your identity, is so much more than just the relentless processor inside your head.
And that brings us to the end. As we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this question to just kind of mull over. Looking back at everything we've covered today, from that overclocked brain to the burden of potential, which one of these 7 reasons really truly hits closest to home for you?